huge congratulations on the show.
Thank you.
What was your reaction when you heard that the show was being resurrected? You must have been delighted that it was going to get a second life.
It's amazing. It's like, in the beginning, when it weren't coming back, we were devastated, man. It was such a huge part of our lives, and we'd worked so hard to get it to where it was. So it was devastating to hear it weren't coming back. But if you look in hindsight, it's just been a brilliant thing to have that gap. For Drake to get involved and for us to now be on Netflix platform and going out to the rest of the world, it's an amazing thing. You can't ask for anything better.
Yeah, I guess the world's changed a little bit, especially in Britain over the few years that you've been away. Obviously, that stuff is now added to the show. Do you think that gives it a much more depth than it had before, or do you think it just adds to all the themes?
I think it just adds to it. I think we tried to deal with a lot of the issues that were going on in London, as well as what the story was about last time. But only having 4 episodes to do it, it's a hard thing. You spend the first ep introducing characters, then the second trying to build them, and then you got 3 and 4 to kind of finish it off. And sometimes it's just not enough. So now we've got 10 eps. We've been able to explore the ins and outs of who these people really are, what motivates them, why they do what they do, and that's really important when we're making shows like this, because otherwise you get people just saying that we're glamorizing violence or whatever. We made them human. You see what motivates them, you see what's getting them into this situation, and a lot of the time those things are gentrification, are deportation, immigration issues, Brexit taking over everyone's mind and kind of making people forget about mental health issues that we have, the NHS and all those other things that are being lost. So it's really important for us to kind of put those themes in the show, and I think that's part of what makes the show what it is and why people love it so much.
Yeah, and you've got this great group of actors and performers, people that are actors for many years like yourself, some people that haven't done it before, but it gives the show this great rawness and great uniqueness. Do you think how important do you think that is for the show?
It's integral for the show. We casted the same way. We casted the same way every time we've done it. We bring Des on, we have open auditions, we go for specific people that we want as well, but at the same time there's a big man there's a guy that casts the show, but we take that part really seriously. And that's why we have people like this involved, you know what I'm saying? Because he knows how to do it. So, love you, bro. Love you. So it's really important. It's a part of what the show is, and we feed off the new actors. We feed off them. We feed off their raw talent. You know what I'm saying? And they obviously feed off what we do as well. And that blend, that mix, makes it great.
And are you hopeful that now you've got, as you say, the Netflix platform, which is so big across the world, that you do get to build on this? You get to do a series 4 with new characters, or to expand the story?
We're going to bring him back, definitely, and him. Definitely, 100%. I mean, obviously, we don't know what's going to happen. We don't know how people are going to take it, and people might not watch it. At the end of the day, it's down to Netflix. But this season is like lit. And we just hope that everyone enjoys it, and then we'll see what happens after.
Yeah, I feel very proud to be part of it. It's a fantastic cast. The scripts are brilliant. Everyone I worked with was more talented than the other, so I learned a huge amount, and I feel very proud to be part of this show, particularly now in Britain.
Yes.
I think this is a very confident and raw and proper reflection of what Britain is. And particularly when we're going through a kind of crisis, or Britain is going through identity crisis. Here you have a very confident community wishing to show itself, and unapologetically, and full of talent and creativity and chutzpah.
Yeah, indeed. The producers were saying it's kind of, I guess, serendipitous in a way that the Brexit stuff has happened, because it just adds yet another layer to this story. I mean, when you read the scripts for the first time, were they reflective of society and this group of people that people would see as outsiders, but actually it's going on a lot more these days?
People are going to kind of imprint that. When I was reading the scripts, it didn't feel like that. You're immediately, because it's so brilliantly written, you're just more kind of consumed with the characters' inner lives, which are very well fleshed out, and the decisions that they make and their circumstances. You didn't feel like you were looking in through some sort of window into a world that doesn't seem real or doesn't seem reflective of today.
Yeah.
The characters are just so, raw that you're immediately kind of taken along by their journey.
Yeah, and it has this, as you say, a great raw edge, through the scripts and the story, but also the guys that are acting in it, who are, some are not trained actors, some are performers in different ways, but it must give it a very kind of unique sensibility when you're around them and you're filming and all that kind of stuff.
I learned so much from these guys, seriously. Particularly the younger actors, and this is some of their first roles. Because you forget how to be that unaffected, and I just kept learning the entire time. And I mean, it took me a little while to get all the slang words down, but they were patient with me, and I loved it. I didn't feel that much of a divide. I just found there was a huge generosity on set. It felt very unpretentious, and therefore we all felt very kind of connected to the actual storyline in the script and not getting caught up in stuff that's totally unimportant.
Yeah.
So that was fun. It was very collaborative.
Yeah.
Very light on its feet creatively, so we were able to kind of do a lot of things on the day.
And also, I guess for television's changed a lot in the interim as well, with Netflix now coming to become this huge power, and people consume their media in a different way. I mean, this, in many ways, I was saying to the producers, it allows people to kind of digest this show and seek this show out in perhaps ways that they may not have done before. Yeah, I think so. And also that it can, touch a kind of audience through maybe the musical stars as well, with Drake's involvement and Dave and Little Simz and all of these people, and talk about a culture that is very British. Yeah.
This is really British, regardless what's being pawned or sold off at the moment. If people want to know what the underbelly of London is like, here it is.
Yeah. And for the audiences who perhaps haven't seen the show or don't know too much about it, what would you say to them is the reason to go and watch this show?
I think for the writing, for the talent and for the performances, and an honest reflection of what this community is. How
was it for you as an actor to be part of this project? I can imagine it was a pretty amazing opportunity.
When you think of projects that you... Obviously, I never always wanted to act, so when you think of projects that you want to do coming into this industry, Top Boy was definitely one of those things, because it's just such a big part of my culture and so close to me that I thought, if I'm doing a project and coming into this industry, I want to do something that I'm most comfortable with, because there's so many roles out there that's so different from you, and of course you want to play them, but of course you want to start off with something that is close to home, and Top Boy was definitely that. There's nothing like it. There's only one of the kind.
How important is it for culture now to have a show like Top Boy? Because it was around for the 2 years, so much acclaim, went away, now it's come back. How is it more relevant now than ever before?
I believe it was relevant then, and the thing is, it's also relevant now because it's moved with the times. I mean, that was 6-7 years ago the second series came out, I'm not too sure, but now we've moved forward 6-7 years and we're telling stories of now, like themes go on, like gentrification, Brexit, and it's good to touch upon these things because we're just moving with the times. That shows how real it is, how authentic it is, and yeah, that's why Top Boy is so special to all of us, man, because of how real it was. There's nothing like it. And if you think about when Top Boy was out back then, it came off our screens, and in that 6 years or whatever, there's been nothing like it. If there's actually nothing you can name like it, and now it's back. I'm glad we can tell our stories on a worldwide scale.
Yeah. And how important is it to have someone like Ashley and all these producers that were there before but are now still here? I can imagine as a young actor, but also as a...
Yes, man. That's my little brother on the show, man. It's amazing to have them finally here. But working with people like Ash, they're my heroes, you know what I'm saying? So when I've watched this 6-7 years ago and having these conversations, you watch them and you realise what the deeper picture of what they've done for the UK as a whole. I've seen Ashley on Get Rich or Die Trying in the States, and I'm thinking, raw, that could actually be me one day working on an American job, and that's what's special. They've broken down barriers, they've paved the way for all of us to come through, and the only thing that we need to do is just work hard and get there. And that's that. I feel like that's a special thing. So working with them has been a surreal experience, to be honest.
And it seems like a decent place to start, because Letitia Wright, who's in Black Panther, is now at the part of the MCU and all that crazy stuff. Is that something good to aspire to in many ways? Of
course. Like this, they're doing big things, and in life, that's what we aspire to do. I mean, if you're not aspiring to do big things, then what are you really doing? You know what I'm trying to say? These are things that people in life could only dream of, and Letitia has proved that, and hopefully after Top Boy I'll be able to go on to do greater things as well, because this is a great start, and this was a dream of mine to be a part of this project.
Tell me a little bit about how this one kind of come about for you, why it was important for you to get involved.
Top Boy is a show that for me is always, represented our culture, our story, where we're from, and it's just something. At the time it came out, there was nothing like it on television. So authentic, so raw, so real. And to be a part of it 6 years later is a very, very surreal feeling. So I'm just blessed to be here. It's crazy.
Yeah, I think it was with you, I saw a quote you said about Top Boy, there's many versions of the show that you've seen in real life. I mean, how important is it for that to kind of be reflected in the show and for people of all walks of life to kind of absorb those messages and those incidents, if you like?
I think it's super important, and there's so many stories within this one story. There's so many themes that are discussed. You know, we dive into gentrification, we dive into religion, we dive into Brexit. Like, there's so many topics within this series that I think people would definitely relate to. And even if, you know, you don't relate to, let's say, my character story, there's a character in there you'll be able to relate to for sure.
Tell us a little bit about your character, because I believe she's a single mum, obviously struggling with all those things that you mentioned. So how was it bringing that to life? Yeah,
Shelley is, like you said, a single mum. She's very independent, driven. A lot of attributes she has I really admire. She's strong, driven, and obviously has grown up in Summer House her whole life, but wants to break out and do more. And I think just offers, you know, a female perspective in terms of, you know, you see throughout the show a lot of guys, and I think what often you don't see sometimes is the ripple effect it has in the fact that it affects the women in their life, whether that be their mums or their sisters or, you know, their girlfriends, whatever it is. I think Shelley offers kind of that perspective.
Also, you got someone like Ashley Waters at the top of this, but this amazing wealth of talent, young talent and old talent. I mean, what's it like to be part of that, to see all these guys having their first jobs or their second jobs bring this story to life?
It's amazing, and that's what I think so great about this, is that, you know, you don't have to be necessarily trained for 7 years. You can just have that gift, and I think the show has allowed so many people to shine and given so many people an opportunity. So many young people that have come from the world we're showing, and I think that's what we need more of, you know. So it just feels really good to be a part of it. It's all super positive.
But you must have been delighted that you were able to come back.
It really is a resurrection, you know. It really is, because, you know, 6 years ago the show was cancelled, even though it got, you know, fantastic reviews. It won awards, it got an audience, and a young, diverse audience as well, which broadcasters are chasing. And we couldn't kind of understand it. But the thing is, in our business, that's what happens. You know, shows get cancelled, and you're sad about it, and you can be a bit angry about it, but that's the truth of it. You don't have any power over it. So we really gave it up for dead. You know, we talked about possible other alternatives in ways to bring it back, but we couldn't find them, and we gave it up for dead.
I mean, it is a rare occurrence that shows do get brought back from the dead like your guys were. I mean, how did the Netflix thing come about? How did the Drake thing come about? Did they come to you, or was it a case of you were just searching for, as you say, a way to kind of bring it back?
I think it was a perfect storm, really. The time that had passed in between the last series and what we've just done now, the television landscape had changed. So there was more of a hunger for a classy show like Top Boy. And then at the same time, you know, this musician called Drake reached out purely as a fan and said, "I've been watching the first 2 series on Netflix. I love it. Is there anything I can do to help?"
You know, it wasn't on Netflix.
On YouTube.
He watched it on YouTube.
Right.
Yeah.
So and he couldn't really, wasn't it?
And he couldn't find the episodes in order, you know, in the way that you do when you're thinking. But he, as Ali says, he came to us as a fan, not wanting to change it, not wanting to set it in the US or set it in Detroit or Chicago or wherever. He just wanted us to do the same thing, but to enable us, to help us, which is why we're here.
And then I think the Netflix bit of it, once we, you know, established the relationships with Drake and his company and worked out what we wanted to do as a team, and we were very clear, it was then, who do we want to make this with? And it felt like there was quite a lot of interest out there, and you know, we said, let's go and speak to Netflix first, because they felt like they would be the home with an ambition globally to take this show and give it a chance to be seen around the world, and they said yes immediately, so straightforward,
yeah. I mean, the story and the narrative and the themes of the show are still as prevalent as they were back in 2000, even more so. I mean, that must have helped in terms of the story, but also bringing kind of a fresh take on it.
You know, I mean, one of the things is you're writing, you know, as you're writing and in the process, you know, we all get together and read the scripts and discuss them and try to figure out ways to kind of make them better. But part of us in that process, things like, for example, the Windrush deportation scandal blew up. And we thought we've got to show this. This has got to be, because what we're talking about is a world that is surrounded by really difficult challenges, and that was part of the challenge. So, and always when we bring those things up, they're part of the show. They're integral to the stories and the characters. They don't feel, our job is not to make them feel stuck on or that we're delivering a message or anything like that. It's there. It's an integral part of the show because it's an integral part of the world that we're talking about.
And of course Brexit has happened in the interim.
Brexit, and I think in episode 1 we have a little Brexit joke in there.
Yeah. I mean, I actually think the passing of time and the fact that it has been 6 years, Ronan's brilliantly used that to the advantage of the show and has actually strengthened the story and made the themes even more interesting in a way because of that passing of time.
So, I mean, for audiences that are coming into this fresh who maybe didn't seek it out before, I mean, what are you hoping that they take away from the show? Because there's so much to unravel.
Well, first of all, an audience watching the new season doesn't have to have seen seasons 1 and 2. This is like a standalone thing, and it'll kind of serve. What we hope is that they'll go back and look at the early years, as it were. So take away from it, I think. Well, my main responsibility as a writer is just to tell a really good story with characters that you engage with, sympathise with, want to follow. That's my first responsibility, is to make the thing work as drama. And then the other part of it is I live in a community like everybody else, and you absorb what's going on in that community and you deal with it in the show. But primarily, we're in the entertainment business. I mean, that's it. If it's entertainment that makes people think about the world they inhabit, then I'm very happy about that.
Just finally, I mean, it's such a raw show, and I guess it helps in many ways to have people that are perhaps starting out as actors or weren't particularly trained as actors. I mean, how does that help in the process, not so much in writing but producing, that you go for those kind of guys rather than established actors?
Well, I think it's a whole array, very big cast, and yes, some are trained actors, some are performers who maybe performed, and some people have just never acted before, and it's new. But I think with everybody, it's about looking for a bit of authenticity. We have a great casting director called Des Hamilton, who cast the original show and has cast this show, and he's got a real kind of special talent for finding something particularly quite raw and street in there, which suits this show really well. So and I think they in turn, I mean, like many elements, that cast feeds in enormously into making the show. I mean, it's a collective kind of experience. So
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys.
Hey You Guys, huh?
Hey You Guys.
Is that from the Goonies?
It is indeed, yeah.
Nice.
Hey